So the first question I have is, why do they say Jesus is the only begotten Son of God? We have a lot of talks about that, but the base of it is a mistranslation, misunderstanding. And that happened, I think, with Jerome. So years after, many years after Jesus, they translated the Hidayah as the only begotten, while correctly translated from Hebrew and from Aramaic, the native tongue, how it was written in the New Testament. The Hidayah is the first begotten. And the concept of the first begotten is that this is cultural, first of all. So they were using a cultural reference to apply to the prophet Jesus. The first begotten son, male, culture, is same as the father. He is supposed to inherit all what his father has. So in the early movement, and in Jesus himself was using that to say, listen, I know what God is. I understand that this God, and our problem is never with God. So that's why he warns us a lot about the court and the judges, and that tells us to solve the problems outside of the human law. So what he was trying to do is he was trying to take us back to our original state of being children of God, him as an example, not as an exception, not the only begotten, but the first begotten. And the duty of the first begotten is to take care of his family. But then he did not claim that you're not also. His goal was, if you read in Matthew chapter 5, so you will be called children of God by your behavior. So he wanted us all to be begotten of God. He's reminding us that we all are children of God, and we all have the qualities of God, and we all can behave like God, who is all inclusive and all loving and all forgiving of all of us. So he was using that. So it was, but later, early Christianity wanted to make him God, wanted to make him an exception. They were creating a new religion. So that's why I'm saying it descended. Okay, so we started with Abraham. Abraham was vibrating at a good level, simple, good level. Then Moses took it into a religion, and then the prophets and the kings and so forth were doing different things with it. Then it got dormant with men and priests and rabbis making rules as they go. And then you got Jesus. And that pinnacle where he's saying, I have the keys. I understand God like Abraham understood God, and maybe even a little better. And now I'm going to teach you how to be children of God and bring the kingdom of God, the counsel of God, just like Isaiah was talking about the counsel. That's Jesus used the kingdom, Malkutha, the Shmaya, the counsel of the heavens, or the counsel, Malkutha, the Laha, the counsel of God. That's what we live by, is that guidance. And we use a lot of it intuitively with farming and things like that, because we start understanding the universe and when the sun rises and when the winter begins and so forth. It's that same intuition is what we need to use with each other to make each other feel good and safe and collaborate. Imagine, I talk about competition and collaboration as two contrasting concepts. We race to the moon or to space against each other. It's a race between nations. Imagine pooling all of our resources and trying to get to the moon together. Instead of China getting to the dark side and another country going to this side and this crater and that crater. Imagine if we put all these scientists on a chat group and tell them every day you show up, you're not racing with them, or you're not asking for money to beat them. We're actually going to put all this money from all these nations together and try to get to Mars together. Let's develop the technology to do that. That's what Jesus was talking about, collaboration. That's why he broke the ties with, even the direct ties with his mother and with his brothers. He did not want it to create any kind of friction that your relationship with them is more important than your relationship with anybody else in your ministry. So I talked about that, and again, all this is in Matthew. It's amazing what those, I simplified it. I said it's only about 17 chapters or so, but there is so much of human knowledge and human understanding and spiritual understanding built into that. So, and that's why it's almost everything you have. Any question you have, the foundation answer is available for you there. If you go wander away, you could find it. Like I found you something in Isaiah, I can find you something in Moses, I can find you something in Micah. There are glimpses of light all over the place, even Paul. But if you're not sure what you're looking for, you could be vibrating at that lower part of our humanity, where we start. I mean, at least for this story, that's where our origins started, as we're contemplating and thinking about how to work together, or how to work against each other in many cases, because hopefully next time I speak, I'll talk a little bit about the vibration of the prophets. They had some really good ideas, like I read you in Isaiah, but they also had some really scary advice to their kings about annihilation and killing. I mean, like with sword, killing people by the hundreds, by the thousands, and trying to annihilate nations. That same mindset is available today. I heard rabbis this past week go back to Deuteronomy and to some of the work, the words of early Israel, wanting to use that today and against the Palestinian people in Gaza. That mindset is there, and what Hamas did is also based on some of this tribal mindset, eye for an eye. Okay, so they have the same. They're both vibrating at that lower level of going against each other, and that's the same thing that's happening in Russia and the Ukraine, and that's the problem with a lot of our our world today, is that we need to move out of that. Hopefully, I answered your Hadaya, at least in the beginning. Okay, what verse chapter of Isaiah is this? I went to about the Messiah, the anointed, is chapter 12. Next week, I'll talk about chapter 1 and go into different areas as well. Okay, and you want to see the model. I'll give you a glimpse of it. We have a few minutes, so let me make sure I don't have any more questions. Okay, a lot of compliments. I really appreciate. I'm humbled that you like that. But okay, the question I have, one more question. Can you recommend best way to know what the words in Lamza Bible really mean, i.e. Hebrews 11 worlds? Dr. Lamza puts some things in the footprint of some of these things, but sometimes he's just translating. And if you listen to Dr. Errico, as they worked together in the past, there are some things that even snuck by him because he was the only one proofing the version of the Bible that was being printed. And they had changed things, that he would send them one way and the proofs would come back, and the printers would change them back, like using like the King James version or something. God knows what version they were using. But Dr. Lamza, even after that, he worked closely with Dr. Errico. So the best, if it was a critical part of the Bible, I think Dr. Lamza and Dr. Errico have published the whole series. I have it here. I have the books there. Dr. Errico always has them. So sometimes if it's a critical word like that, you might find it in the commentaries about that specific book. That's what I use. I use the Aramaic, and I can translate from Aramaic to English to Arabic. Sometimes I go to Hebrew as well, and kind of do the comparison and to get the full context. That's why I will show you the prophets, because it's important to also know what was going on. Like in the case of Paul's letter to the Hebrews, what was going on with that ministry for Paul to send that letter. And so, and then from that, you can get the context. So my best recommendation is, if it's something, a specific verse that you're struggling with, bring it to us. We always have these, me or Dr. Erico, send it to the foundation and whoever is doing the next session. If we don't have enough questions, or we can usually respond specifically to those things and get into the roots of it, etc. Otherwise, go to the commentaries. That should be like a good resource for you. Okay, I think that's the last question. And oh no, it's not. There are more. How do you live in higher vibration day to day? As I said, it's not easy, but the teachings of Jesus ground me and give me what I need to build on, to be able to answer our modern issues today. That's about it. It's and it's practice, it's meditation, it's reading, it's reflection, and sometimes it is studying the other things and being open-minded to even other perspectives. I like some of the things that come from people who practice yoga or or are Buddhists or are Hindus. Or are Muslim. So each one of these groups, we're all trying to do the same thing, and we all have the light in our past, in our history, in our belief system. The problem is when we get squeezed, the tendency is to go dark, and that's why I read the part about when you're slapped on the cheek. Then the other one, Jesus was not teaching us weakness; he was teaching us how to be really strong and not throw fuel on a fire. Okay. Now he knew, though, in his time, that people will respond. People will come and defend the meek. They will defend the people who are the peacemakers, because they will try to. And you see that in society today. You can try to provoke somebody, but somebody who's grounded is very hard to provoke. And then if you're not afraid to die, there isn't really much that they can do. And if they create fear for you, then you're giving them power to create the fear. So study Jesus. He was real, but really focus on those chapters I gave you, not the rest of the Bible, because you can get lost in it. And that's why it's great that we have this time together, because we can also shed light on how you can get lost in some cases. Great question, and very hard to answer. Thank you for the compliments. Focus on which chapters? As I mentioned, it's Matthew. You can go to Mark. Mark has that. Luke has the bulk of it. But just start with Matthew chapter 3 to Matthew chapter 27, verse 50. That's where Jesus takes his last breath. That's really where the essence of Jesus is in those chapters. There are glimpses of Jesus in the Gospel of John. There are glimpses of Jesus in other places. There is definitely his footprint in different areas of Acts, even in the works of Paul and the letters of the other apostles. But that's really, you probably will have everything you need in those verses. And real quickly, so you know what I'm going to be doing next time. I'm going to share my screen. I think that's the end of that. Yep, that's the end of the questions. So they hide things. Okay, not whiteboard. Wow, the share screen is like I'm not seeing it. This is very strange. Okay, I'm not seeing it. I'll have to figure it out next time. I've never run into that. Okay. It's not appearing to me, and I use, oh, here it is. It's the one that's lit up in green. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Can you see that this is actually a modern version. I put this into PowerPoint, but Dr. Erico has done this in his own hand, and I'm not sure if Flynn is with us, but the foundation might be able to like ship you a copy, or I don't know if she sells them on the website or not. But the problem again with this book, as you look at it, if you're looking at my picture, is that it's sequential, that the scholarly people name prophets, major prophets and minor prophets and so forth, and they again pick here and there. What Dr. Errico did with this, which is great, is he puts the people who are tormenting or in conflict with Israel and with the Jewish people up here. So we have the Assyrian Empire, we have the Babylonians in power, we have the Medes and Persians who come to power then with their kings, with the key events that were happening based on history / the Bible. And then you can see the prophets where they fall in here. So when you're reading Jeremiah, or you're reading the book of Kings, chapter 16 or chapter 25, or Ezra, you need to get it in the context of what was going on to understand it. You know, and if you're a Christian going to a regular Christian church today, you look back at it, and they use a lot of this stuff in their teachings. Like, was Zechariah really talking about what Jesus is talking about, or was Zechariah dealing with his people? And you see here's the kingdom of Israel, because 10 of the tribes left and created a northern kingdom, and they had their own kings at the same time. That the two tribes, that's why we have Jewish people, is from the tribe of Judah. So those are, you know, this is important to get where the king, where the prophet was, what kings, what conflict was going on, and how long they lived. Some of them lasted multiple prophets, or were in the middle of when the split happened, when the both kingdoms existed. So I was going to go over some of that to kind of, and then bring the teachings of the prophets and relate them to that time, and then show how they also conflicted with Moses. So it wasn't a smooth one story across all of the whole Bible. The Bible is complex, and for you to understand it, you need, if you care, you need to understand that complexity, so you don't make the wrong decisions or use some of the stories that are really not applicable because they were done in a different context. So with that, it's 6:01 my time, 8:01 your time probably. Or I thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. And if you have any questions or anything, go to nuhra.com or nuhra.org. And you can send us questions there. And next week, and don't forget that the 11th is Dr. Errico is doing part 2 of the Nuhra School of Light. So if you haven't registered, contact us and contact the foundation and register, and we'll see you hopefully Saturday, or we'll see you next Wednesday with Dr. Errico. Have a lovely evening, and till then.